Hello. Today I'm going to talk about a topic in which the child version of me probably didn't really expect that's something that they would get to talk about as an adult, which is great. I'm a little bit excited. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the disclosure. Some people call it the disclosure, and obviously that's sort of to do with the UPAs, extraterrestrial, whatever you want to call it, and that's obviously been coming up a bit lately, but even in mainstream media, which is a little bit interesting. And I'm going to get into why that's a little bit interesting, and also why there's a need for discernment with some of that information. Anyway, as I was saying, it's something that I was very much interested in as a child. I loved listening, watching, reading about life that doesn't always perceive itself to be from here, and other things, people might call them ghosts, stories about people with magic and working with different beings and whatnot. And I know I'm not the only one, but I also know that not every child was interested in those things, and that's okay too. So, this is nothing new. Ancient peoples around the world, particular religions, and some original peoples still discuss this. It's either spoken about or it's written about in text, or it's done through imagery. So yeah, it doesn't take much to find things like that. If you get connected with the elders of the land on which you live on, they may even have some stories to share. Eventually, they have their own stories, shall I say, anyway. I know where I'm residing, I'm living in the nation that people call Australia. 500 different nations within inside that nation, and they all have their own stories. And the ones that I've spoken with, they do have their own stories about other beings coming from other places that are supposedly outside the earth, beings that live in the earth, and I won't go any more into that for the purpose of this vlog. And so it's interesting to start with in the fact that obviously many organisations have been discrediting stories of such for many decades now. When you think about just within the last supposed 100 years of his story. And there was a considerable increase of activity around basically when we started using nuclear power as a form of weaponry again. Yes, I did say again, because that is another story to be shared for another day, potentially. Maybe not on this platform, but those that get it will get it, and those that don't, that's okay. So, yes, there was obviously an increase of us exploring the science and whatnot, sort of modernity science that we've sort of really remembered. And from that, there was obviously an increase. Well, that's where you'll start to see it written about, especially within certain organisations, an increase in behaviour in the sky, or whatever you call it, should I say. And the reasons for that I won't dive too much into. It sort of goes beyond the purpose of this vlog. So yeah, but like I was saying, now all of a sudden certain organisations are being a little more transparent, and they're actually saying, oh, there is actually these things in the sky, and we're not really sure what they are, and now we've got to have national meetings about it because we now consider them a security threat, even though they've been here for a very, very long time, even though time is a funny thing. So I guess where I'm getting to with this is that I want us to be careful with this information that's being disclosed. I'm sure some of you are aware we've got a lot of technology now, and we have done for a long time, but it's only just being sort of presented to the public about the way in which we can create imagery in the air and obviously on objects that looks very real. We've got some amazing technology that can create, basically a film in front of you, but without actually being projected onto a screen, and it looks very third dimensional. And it doesn't take much to see imagery of that online, and maybe you've got to experience it yourself in real life. We're all sort of aware about this potential reality that people are building, which you might have to put on some certain glasses, and then you'll be able to go into these other realities and these other universes. But I'm talking more about technology that can just be sort of projected out into the air, into the sky, and can look very real, very tangible, whales floating in the sky kind of thing. So that is available to us. Not everybody, but obviously it's there. And if you understand about dimensions, obviously I could pick up something like, say, this crystal, this beautiful Lemurian crystal that I've got here. And many people will only be able to see it in its very much third dimensional form. Some can actually see the energy that's around it, and science can prove that. Like, it's nothing woo-woo. Science can actually measure energy of objects that permeates outside the actual physical supposed barriers of the object. It doesn't just exist for crystals, it exists for humans, it exists for pretty much everything. I could say pretty much everything, but I can't guarantee, because I don't know if science can measure whether there's permeation of energy coming out of this cloth purse. Do you know what I mean? But they've definitely done it on things like animals and humans. Crystals, crystals are amazing, because that's a lot of our technology. Things like computers and whatnot are made from this sort of stuff. And, it's a great conductor of energy. So where I'm going with this is that, some of us have the ability to be able to perceive beyond what the third dimensional physical reality is, which then means you can start to see other things. Some people might class that as, some kind of mental illness. And sure, if that's what makes you feel comfortable, you're more than welcome to put people and things into boxes like that if you need to. And so where I'm going further with this is that my understanding is these beings that have been existing in amongst all of us for longer than the humans probably been here, they don't really reside within the third dimension. The third dimension is too dense for them to be able to make themselves appear to us. However, the way in which the human evolutionary consciousness is going at this current moment is that more and more people are going to be able to perceive energy, whatever you want to call it, beyond than just what the third dimensional reality presents itself to be. We're seeing that increasingly with young children, and people are being able to reawaken or remember that with themselves through certain practices. It could be done later on, even in adult life. A lot of us are born with these sort of perceptions, and I guess it gets kind of trained out of us. It's very easy to be trained out of us. There's lots of fake programs and things that we buy into, and the people around us who think they have our best interests at heart and all of that sort of stuff. And so we sort of stop having imaginary friends and all that sort of stuff when we're kids. It kind of gets to, I think, about the age of about 7. That's when a lot of that sort of stuff can be quite easily closed off. And then for some people it's a reawakening, some people it just continues on for the rest of their life. So what I'm saying is, like, these beings, they don't exist in the third dimension, but we are now going to be able to see them. Well, some people will be able to see them because they exist in other dimensions. And as our perceptions evolve in that way, then it's going to become very apparent to the human that there is other things beyond than what the third dimension presents itself as, which is, it can be a beautiful thing. For a lot of people, it's probably a bit scary. And so what I'm saying with this discernment around this disclosure information is that if they're saying, that we can see these things, quite easily, I would be using my discernment as to whether that's actually supposedly these beings that and their technologies that don't really exist in the third dimension, or is it actually a human-created technology presenting itself to further perpetuate a storyline, which usually relates to something to do with fear. Now, I'm not discrediting and saying that, that people can't see these things, even if they not normally see things like that. A lot of times when people do see other beings that they don't normally, and then, you know, they sort of come out with the stories of, I've seen an alien, or whatever it is that they say that they've seen. They're usually in quite altered states of consciousness when it occurs, and or, you know, they are children who obviously haven't closed those things off. So, you know, and that does kind of make me feel a bit sad, because I do know, you know, you hear all these stories about, you know, Farmer John back in 1950 seen an alien spaceship land in his field, and, you know, and then, like, he was discredited from his whole community because, and thought he was a Looney Tune, or whatever, whatever people perceive that to be, because, you know, because there's certain organisations that were doing the best, and they have their own interests. You know, whether some say that's good or for bad, that's really up to you, whether you want to put something in a box like that, you know, and to try and make out that, you know, Farmer John was was seeing things and they weren't real, and there's no such thing, and la 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 la. You know, I feel a bit sad for those people who, you know, they may still be here or may not be here, for being vilified in their communities, for, you know, speaking out and saying that they've seen something that, you know, they've never seen something like that before in their life. They're not, yeah, you know, and like a lot of those people, they wouldn't dare want to say something like that, just to make it up, you know. But there, of course, there's stories that are not real. Again, that's the whole part of using your discernment through this life. So yes, I feel like I kind of got to the middle of what it is that I was wanted to say. You know, with these things like this disclosure, using your discernment, is it actually human created technology to perpetuate a particular storyline, or is it something else? And yeah, if you've got anything you want to share on the topic, you know, you're more than welcome to. Obviously, be discerning with the words that you use if you're going to be commenting on a public platform. However, if you wish to discuss more, of course you can message me, contact me through the various social media links that I have, usually at the bottom of my YouTube video. And I will see you in the next vlog.